Hello, and in this part 2 IELTS speaking video, I'm going to look at the topic, describe an advertisement you remember well. You should say what it was about, where you saw it, what it was like, and explain why you remember it well. Now the word advertisement can be said advertisement, or the Americans use advertisement, so it really doesn't matter how you pronounce it, but as you'll see in the video I tend to say advert most of the time. So let's take a look at the model answer. I was struggling to think of what to talk about for this particular topic because, to be perfectly honest, I can't remember the last time I saw an advert. I don't watch TV nowadays because I use streaming services like Netflix, and although there are adverts on YouTube, I take absolutely no notice of them. The only one I can remember is one about a chocolate bar, so I'll have to talk about that one. If I remember rightly, it was an advert for a bar of chocolate. The brand has completely slipped my mind, but it's one of the best-selling ones, I think. Anyway, despite being an advert for chocolate, as far as I can remember, the bar of chocolate did not appear until the very end. I remember seeing it for the first time many years ago in the distant past, and I thought to myself, what on earth is it advertising? I guess that is what made it successful, because the next day people were talking about it. Anyway, what was the advert like? Well, it was a gorilla playing drums. You might be wondering what that has to do with chocolate. Me too. I have absolutely no idea. It wasn't a real gorilla, obviously, but it looked so realistic, and that made it so eye-catching because it made you question whether it was a real gorilla and why they used it for advertising chocolate. This is what made it so memorable. It was so different to anything I had ever seen before. I don't know if the advert led to an increase in sales, but it was an iconic advert, and if you haven't seen it, I recommend you check it out. As for where I saw it, like I said, it was on TV a good few years ago, so I saw it when I was watching TV. In my country we tend to have one ad break in a 30-minute programme, so I saw it during the ads. This was a really tricky topic for me to choose an advert for because every country has different adverts, so any advert I choose is not going to be something you have probably seen. So that's why I've chosen this one. You can look it up online, it will be on YouTube, you can find it if you want to use it and use my answer in the IELTS exam. You can say something like, I saw it when I was travelling in the UK, or I saw it online because people were talking about it. So you can use some reason for having seen this advert. So I was struggling to think of what to talk about for this particular topic. Hopefully, if you've been watching lots of my videos, you will have your opening sentence for your part 2 ready. You should know this without having to write it down or think about it in the exam, so you can go straight into your answer. Because to be perfectly honest, try to use that at some point in your answer as well. Streaming services, good complex language for talking about how we watch TV nowadays. So we use streaming services, and these are things like Netflix and YouTube. I take absolutely no notice of them. This means I don't look at them. I'm not interested in them. I take absolutely no notice of them. So this advert was about a bar of chocolate, a chocolate bar. If I remember rightly, very useful phrase for every topic, and it's idiomatic, it's complex, and like I said, use it in every single part 2 answer, if I remember rightly. The brand has completely slipped my mind. The brand is the company that makes the chocolate, and to completely slip my mind means I've forgotten it. Now this is not true. I know it's Cadbury's chocolate, but I'm using complex language here. The brand has completely slipped my mind. One of the best-selling ones, you could say, one of the popular ones. Remember to use despite in writing as well. When we follow it with a verb, we use the ing form, and it makes your sentence much more complex. Despite being. Another great little phrase for part 2, as far as I can remember. So it's like saying I think, as far as I can remember. The very end, very useful for speaking, and it's just how we emphasize, stress the end of something. So at the very end of the song, at the very end of the book, at the very end of the film, it's just an idiomatic way of saying right at the end. In the distant past, useful for writing as well, and it means a long time ago. What on earth is it advertising? We use on earth in the UK a lot to emphasize things, like if my children are doing something and they are getting lots of things out of the cupboards and they start making a cake and making a mess, and I walk in, I'll say, what on earth are you doing? And it really stresses the question, what on earth is it advertising? I guess, I think, I suppose, and remember to get your past continuouses in as much as possible. People were talking about it. When you want to move on to another bullet point, then just ask yourself it as a rhetorical question. Anyway, what was the advert like? Well, and it just is a good organisational feature to move you on to another bullet point. It was a gorilla. We've seen him on the previous page. A gorilla. You might be wondering, very useful little phrase that you can put in your part 2 as well. So if you're thinking, the examiner's thinking, what on earth are you talking about? You might be wondering. I have absolutely no idea. Don't use this in writing, but great for speaking, and it means I don't know. I have absolutely no idea, and it's a much more complex way of saying I don't know. It wasn't a real gorilla, so it was somebody pretending to be a gorilla, but it looked realistic. IELTS examiners love you using words from the same word family to show that you know words that are connected to other words. This shows your flexibility in language. So real, realistic. It looked real is what I'm saying here. Eye-catching, it catches your eye. It makes you question. We can use the verb to question. It makes you question whether it was real or not. It was memorable. So useful words here for talking about your advert if you're not using this one. And it was different to anything I had ever seen before. So whatever advert you have chosen, try to get that in because it's past perfect. I don't know if the advert led to, caused, from the verb to lead to, very useful for IELTS writing as well. An iconic advert, we can talk about iconic people, iconic buildings, and we could talk about iconic adverts, adverts that are very famous. If I said to somebody of my age, do you remember the advert with the gorilla? They would know what I'm talking about, so it's iconic. I recommend you check it out. This is very informal language. It means have a look at it to check it out. As for where I saw it, like I said, so another way of moving to another bullet point, as for a good few years ago means like quite a few years ago. When I was watching TV, you must use this in this answer. And in my country, we usually have one ad break. An ad break is where a programme pauses for adverts. Now, I know in other countries you have more ad breaks. When I was living in Australia, we had 7 ad breaks in one episode of Friends, which was 30 minutes long. It took hours to watch a 30-minute programme. So you can talk about the ad breaks, and I saw it during the ads, the advertisements, the adverts. So, if you want to use the same advert as me, like I said, go and watch it on YouTube so you're familiar with it and say something like, I remember seeing this advert on the internet at the time, or you can say I was traveling in Europe and I saw this advert, or you may have an advert that you want to talk about from your country, and that's fine, and try to use some of these phrases like iconic, I saw it when I was watching TV, it was during the ad break, and other words and phrases that I've used in this answer. Let's take a look now at one part 3 question connected with this topic. So they may ask you, do people usually buy things after watching adverts? Oh, I'm not entirely sure. I think most people think they don't. However, surely brands would not make adverts if they were ineffective. I feel that the most effective adverts are ones with celebrities. People are more likely to be influenced by celebrity branding or celebrity endorsement than a random person advertising a product. Now in part 3, you have to be careful not to start talking about yourself. Part 3 are general questions where you must talk about people generally. Now, if you are struggling and can't think of what to say, then talking about yourself is better than saying nothing. However, try not to. I wanted to start this with saying no, I don't, but I had to stop myself and think, no, you have to think about most people. So I'm not entirely sure. I think most people think they don't. However, surely brands would not make adverts if they were ineffective. Ineffective is a very useful word for writing and speaking, and means not successful, not good, not useful. The most effective adverts, the most useful, the most successful, are ones with celebrities. And we talk about people being influenced by celebrity branding. That means that celebrities are using a particular brand, or celebrity endorsement. That's when a celebrity says, I use this product and it's good. So very useful, those words, for IELTS writing if you've got the topic of advertising in that. Celebrity branding, celebrity endorsement. A random person, that's just any person like me or you. So you're more likely to be influenced if it is a celebrity rather than just a random person or a model using it. So I'm saying yes, people are influenced, but I feel that the celebrity adverts are the most effective. Hope you found this video useful. Thanks for watching.